And there we go. I will turn it over to Jennifer.
All right, well, I appreciate you all being here today, and I hope that this will help you in preparing for the theory test this year. I am really excited about the changes that we have made on these tests. I know that they are really helping my students in preparing this year, and I'm excited for the future of our students as well. So the title of my program for the conference back in June was Bridging the Gaps, New Changes for TMTA Essay Theory Tests in 2023-2024. And the examples that you're going to see come from past theory tests and worksheet examples. They are copyrighted and the property of TMTA. Most of them come from the materials that you can find on the website in the members resources area of the TMTA.org website. So the inspiration for the theory test changes came from watching students struggle on level 10 figure-based analysis, and that's where it really started about 3 years ago when I was starting my term as theory coordinator. And then listening to comments made by officers, graders, local chairs, and other colleagues, observing inconsistencies between levels throughout the years of teaching the new syllabus tests, and needing a permanent change for the bonus questions. We had slapped a Band-Aid on the test when we got to 2020 and people were testing at home or in studios. We had to replace the the bonus question that was sight seeing and sight reading with something else. And so it was time to replace that with a more permanent option. As far as figured base goes, our past or current question, which we are not changing for level 7, number 15, looks like this. We unfortunately didn't have a great stepwise motion after that, and so we're making a change. So the one that we have had in the past for level 8 looked like this, where they were changing the inversion on the treble staff. That was not helping them to understand what figured base symbols would mean in the upper levels. So now we are replacing that question with 1, 1, 6, and 1, 6, 4 figured base symbols. And the students will write the root, the third, the fifth in the baseline. And on the treble staff, they may draw the chord in any position. So they could write a root position chord every single time in each of those measures, or they may write different inversions. If you wish to teach them to not double the third on the first inversion chords, that's great. However, it will not be counted against them if you choose to not do that, as that is a higher level theory skill than what we are asking them to do at this point. Notice that we are giving them the information that this means that the root is in the base. This symbol means that the third is in the base. This symbol means that the fifth is in the base, so that it is not too much of a challenge. We're actually teaching them about figured base through the question on level 8. Your answers might look like this. Again, there are many different options for the treble staff. The word in here, in case you are not able to see it on a smaller size screen, is or. So these are 2 different base options. This would be like on an answer key. The grader would need to see that you would have 2 different choices. They could have either or. On this base note, you would not write both, only one. On this measure, you can see the option of omitting the third for the treble staff, or you could plainly write a root position triad or snowman, as I like to teach my students. Here you can see the person has written an inversion, but again, you could just write the different tonic, subdominant, and dominant triads all in root position if you wish to. However you wish to teach your students will be fine. Please also notice that we have a change from being in a minor key for this question to a major key. So they will not need to focus on raising the third of the chord. on the dominant anymore. I know that was always a struggle for students. And then I can remember making the answer keys as the assistant coordinator, and I even forgot to do it a time or two when I was doing them late at night. So that will no longer be something that is taught on this level. It will be something they will need to know later on, of course, but not a concept for level 8. Are there any questions for level 8 replacement question? Right. The reasoning for level 8, number 7 changes. Having students draw the root, third, or fifth in the base instead of required inversions on the treble staff, as well as introducing figure base notation, will help bridge level 7, number 15, and the new level 9, number 9. Changing to a major key will reduce the stress of forgetting to raise the third of the dominant triads in a minor key. And there will be no change in points needed because there's the same number of chords and bass notes. This is the current level 9, number 9, and it really didn't teach the students anything. And I had a problem with this when I was teaching my students in the level 10, and I couldn't understand why they weren't understanding what to write when they got to the figure base notation. I looked back at level 9, I was like, oh, you weren't prepared for this at all. So our new level 9 question looks like this. So remember, they were just writing the bass notes. They were told essentially what to put on the bass line, and then treble staff they had any chord position they wanted to draw. Now they are identifying it from having the chord written on the staff, and they are to circle if it's a 1, 1, 6, 1, 6, 4, or 4, 4, 6, 4, 6, 4. And we have one example that is in major on the left, and one that will be in minor. And we are helping them to start notice, hopefully you will point out, that the third of the dominant triad is raised in that minor scale, so that you will be able to show that example, as they will need to remember to do that in higher levels. It's a fairly easy question for students to do and will help them when they are moving to level 10. Your answer choices would look like this. Any questions for level 9 replacement? Okay. The current question is a definition question rather than application question. The new question builds off the foundation laid in level 7, number 15, and the new level 8, number 7. Students will be better prepared for level 7 figure-based analysis with inversions. And the current question is worth 3 points total. The new question is worth a half point per measure to total 3 points. Right, now part writing, this is one of the things that a lot of people have complained about over the years, that part writing is too challenging or too hard or too difficult. And a lot of times people would just say the upper level tests or the last 2 years were too hard. And it was due to part writing when I finally got them to admit why they were saying it was too hard. So we have made this a lot easier for students by knocking down the amount of points that is worth and how much students actually have to do. What the old tests had been in the past look like this. And now they will only have to fill in the last measure with 3 chords. So the chords will be given in measure 1. Students only fill in measure 2, so the 3 chords. Points are reallotted to question number 3D, where they have to write in the scale degree names, and that's like tonic and subdominant, dominant, all those kinds of things. It's not very hard for them. Number 18 will add 1 point. That's a lead sheet chord has been added to that question. And then number 19, there's an additional point where we have added a cadence so that all 3 cadence types will be heard in the ear training section. This was actually something that has been requested for several years by a now former officer, and something that the theory advisory committee agreed with. We need to have that change made, but we need to make it wait until we were making these test changes. The part rank for level 12 has looked like this, and we are going to now have it look like this. Only one example instead of 2. It will be in a harmonic minor key, and the first chord will be given. So they'll essentially have guidance on how to start in their open harmony example. and it will be worth, of course, a whole lot less points due to only one example. The points will be realigned to number 12, where they will have half and a more point on the secondary dominant chord identification. And number 13B will have extra points allotted to each of the lead sheet bass notes. And number 15 has an extra point and a half for each music texture has been increased by half a point. That question is usually very easy for students, and so we felt like we could put those points easily there. Any question on the part writing? All right. Bonus questions. These are when I gave a session to the local theory chairs on Zoom last time. I had multiple teachers really excited about these bonus questions, and I hope that you will be too. The level 8 through 12 bonus questions were replaced during the pandemic as a temporary fix for the home and in-studio testing situations. The pre-pandemic rhythmic sight reading and sight singing bonus questions required more time and staffing to complete. Numerous requests were received to not return to these types of bonus questions. New bonus questions beginning in fall 2023 will help prepare students for the next level of the TMTA theory test as they do in the first 7 levels. So the level 8 new bonus question will have students compose 2 measures of rhythm in 6/8 meter. Writing in a compound meter with proper beaming of 8th and 16th notes will help prepare students for level 9 rhythmic dictation in 6/8 compound meter. I know that is a struggle that my students usually have. They may have played it before, but they still don't seem to understand the groupings of the compound meter. So having to write it themselves, I think, will be of help to them. So the question will look like this. Compose 2 measures of rhythm in 6/8 meter. Correct beaming for compound meter must be shown. Required note values, quarter, 8th, and 16th. Optional note values, dotted 8th, dotted quarter, and dotted half notes. So a possible answer could look like this. These are 2 possible answers, rather. So answers may vary as long as they meet the requirements as stated in the instructions. These are just 2 possibilities. Students do not need to end on a strong beat for this question since it's such a short example. The first one does, of course, but the second one does not. They will earn a point for 75 to 100% being correct, half a point for 50 to 74% correct. If they have all the note values correct, but beaming is incorrect, the student will earn half of a point. Any questions on the level 8 bonus?
Jennifer, I have a question. Because I have some I don't know, little sassy level 8 students. It has come up that, what if we just do the same thing in both measures? Is that?
There is nothing that says that you cannot do that.
And you could literally just put a dotted half note in both measures though, right?
No, you cannot.
No?
Nope.
Okay.
Because we have required note values, quarter, 8th, and 16th.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Okay.
So I thought of that.
Good. Yeah. All right. I think I missed that the first time around.
I know that type of student.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And the whole point of this is to be able to see the correct beaming and for them to understand how we need to be able to see beats 1 and 4. Because if you cannot see beats 1 and 4 as a new note value, which you cannot see in dot half, but dot half is still appropriate, then you're not understanding it, right? If a student puts a quarter half note, it's wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why we have in our instructions that quarter, 8ths, and 16ths, because that will force them to be thinking about it correctly. If they have 16ths, they're going to have beams. If they, somewhere, or I guess they could just write everything with flags, but that's not going to be correct either. I mean, we have correct beaming, so hopefully they will be taught correctly by their teacher. And then the optional note values are dotted 8th or dotted quarter, dotted half notes. They don't have to use those though, but they could if they wanted to show the quarter, eighth, 16ths here in the first measure, and then they could do a dotted half note there, fine.
Okay.
But they have to at least show
Yeah, I see.
use some over in one of the measures.
Okay. Got it.
And they're not being served well if they haven't been taught how to do it at least a little bit. But I mean, they don't have to come up with it on the spot. They could be taught one rhythm pattern and just remember it and write it down.
Mm-hmm.
Also an option.
Okay.
So, but it's my hope that it will have better understanding, because I know my students have always struggled with it, with hearing it and feeling it. And if they can get it into their bodies in level 8, I'm hoping it will be easier in level 9 for them. Great question. Any other questions? Okay. Level 9, new bonus question. 2 figured base chord symbols will be given, one in reposition and one in inversion. Students will draw the chords for a half point each chord. Drawing these chords will help prepare students for figured base analysis in level 10 and part writing in level 11. So they will both be in the same key. And in fact, on the test, I don't believe that they are both labeled like they are on this. It'll just have the one label because, like I said, they will both have the same key signature. The inversion will change between the 2 chords. So don't expect it to always be like 1, 6, 4, and 5. Okay. It might be 1 and 5, 6, or 1, 6, and 5. But one's always going to be in reposition, and then the other one will be in an inversion. And then the notes on the treble staff, as it says, can be as a snowman, or it can be in any inversion. It's the base note, of course, is dictated by what the figured base symbol is. So this is a possible answer for this question. Any questions for level 9? Okay. Level 10. A minor key harmonic form will be given. Students will spell out the notes of the tonic and dominant triads, and they will be scored separately, so a student could earn half a point or else a full point, depending on if they get both triads correct. The new bonus question for level 10 will begin to prepare students for level 11, number 4, which asks for the tonic, subdominant, and dominant chord spellings. So on this one, they only have to do tonic and dominant, but they will have to do all 3 when they get to level 11. It's going to look exactly the same other than that, though. So it will look like this. And if you've taught level 11, this should look extremely familiar to you, because like I said, the only thing we've done is take out subdominant would normally be right here on the level 11 test. In the given key, spell the tonic and dominant triads in root position. Use appropriate upper and lowercase letters. The reason why you need to have upper and lowercase letters is because for the harmonic form on the tonic chord, you should have lowercase. When you get to dominant, you should have the uppercase, because you raise in harmonic form that third, that pesky third, and it would be in uppercase letters to make it major with that third raised. Any questions on this one? That would be your answer.
Just to clarify, if the student does not use lowercase letters, are they given no credit at all for it?
I will need to check with the coordinator on that one, because I haven't seen the grading key and what is going to be done on that. And I would need to check the answer key. That's a good question.
Okay.
I don't make those decisions anymore. I can be part of that decision making, but I'm not the authority on that. So I would need to check the grading key. I know that's what we want and what should happen.
Right.
I can tell you that much, but I am not sure, and I will need to check on that for you.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
Mm-hmm.
Level 11 new bonus question. Students will identify the name of a secondary dominant chord and of which key it is the dominant. So another thing, when people have said the tests are too hard, They complain about the secondary dominant chord. Well, you can blame yours truly for adding that on, because that was something when I was on the syllabus committee over a decade ago was when that started. And I wanted that added on. Other people did too, but I was one of the ones who said that needed to be added on because it was the only thing that I did not know when I went into second semester theory, because I tested out the first semester. And so people say it's so hard, we can't do this, and I'm like, it's so easy, maybe we just don't know how to teach it. So we're putting it onto the level 11 test as a bonus question, and it's going to help if you are struggling with finding easy ways to teach it. This is going to help you learn how to teach it easily to your students. It's a very easy bonus question, and it will help ease them into the level 12 secondary dominant question when they get there as well. So the examples will look the same as the secondary dominant examples on level 12 test. And the two parts of the level 11 bonus question, like I just said, will help teach the first two steps on how to solve secondary dominant chords necessary in level 12 steps. It's a 3-step process. We're going to walk them through the first 2 steps as the bonus. So the first step is name the chord, not the key. And then the second question is, in which key is this chord the dominant? So it should go like this. Name the chord, not the key. And if students are struggling, you can have them cover up with their hand the key signature portion, and we'll also have it labeled there, but you can have them cover this up so that they're only focusing on the chord portion. You can have them write out the note names like I have them do when they're writing out the figured bass symbols. So you would write out C, E, G. Okay, the root of that chord is C. So the answer is C major. In which key is this chord the dominant? Well, if you count down a fifth from the answer on 1, C, B, A, G, F, it would be the dominant of F major. And that's all they have to do on this. It's very, very simple. And then they are just one step away of knowing the answer on level 12. Any questions for this one? Awesome. Okay, level 12 new bonus question. Students will add in the missing lead sheet notation for a 4-measure melody. Being able to harmonize a melody is a practical skill students can carry on throughout their lives beyond formal piano lessons. The melody will always be written in C major. We're not trying to make this a really hard question for students. Just trying to add something practical in for students that they can carry on as they are leaving their school year lessons. So write in the lead sheet chord symbols for the melody below, choosing from C, F, G, and G7. That's it. 4 different chord symbols are all they will be choosing from. Only 1 chord symbol per blank. Chord names may be used more than once. So I'm going to tell you, usually it's going to start on C, if not always. And then it's always going to end on C. So on the worksheet that you can find, if you haven't already seen it, there are worksheets for several of the levels, and then there are some example tests for 2 of the levels that don't have the worksheets. And this is on the worksheet for level 12. It has this same kind of thing as well as the helpful hint box. The helpful hint box will not be on the test. This is just for students to get to know what to do and to help teachers who might not know what to do on it as well. If it has C, E, or G in the melody, you're going to choose C. If it has F, A, or C in the melody, you're going to choose F. If it has G, B, D, you're going to choose G. If it has G, B, D, F, you're going to choose a G7. And if it, when you're to the ending blank, you're going to choose C so that you're ending with the tonic. So here in the first measure, you see C, E, G, C, G. So of course, that's going to be choose C. And then on this one, oops, sorry. On this one, you have just an A. Well, the only one that has A is the F, A, C. So we're going to choose F. This one, you have a choice because it's only G. So on that one, you could choose to have either a C chord to harmonize or a G chord to harmonize. And then on this one, you have spelled out for you nicely, C and A, which I can't see through my screen sharing. I wonder if I can move this. I'm sorry. No, I can't. But you would choose the F for there, and then you have F and G. When you have F and G together, you're of course going to want to choose G7, and then you end with C. Any questions on the level 12 bonus? Okay, I hope that you will find this an exciting new skill if you're not already doing it with your students. And don't just have them do it on paper, actually have them try it on the piano as well, so they'll see how it actually works and sounds when they play it on the piano, and experiment with how wrong chords sound as well. And then they will know why they are choosing, because it just doesn't sound good when you put the wrong chord with the others, or maybe they'll think it does, but hopefully not. Hopefully their ears will be working and telling the other. When you have 0 to 2 chords named correctly, they will not get any points awarded. 3 or 4 chords named correctly will earn half a point, and 5 or 6 chords named correctly will be 1 point awarded. So we're trying to give them some leeway in there. They don't have to have all 6 correct. They can have 1 wrong and still get 1 point. And remember, the last one's always going to be a C, so that's already a freebie there. So if they get just a few more, then they're going to get half a point. And like I said, it's usually going to start with C, so that's 2. So it shouldn't be too hard, hopefully. All right, so changes by test level. On level 8, on number 3, which is the interval construction where they have to fill in the top note, points are increased to 6 points. So instead of being half a point per measure, it is 1 point per measure. So our total is 6 points. And we did this because down here on number 12, you can see the music analysis question points were reduced to 3 points total. They are 1 point each instead of being 2 points each. This came from the grading team from level 8, put in a strong request to have the number of points per question reduced, because so many students were missing these questions and it was making their medal drop down to a different color, or even losing their medals. And so we took that under advisement, and as we were making these changes, said this is the time to do it. And they were saying that number 3, they were losing less points there, and so that's where we put those points. Number 7, figure-based chord writing. The old question was replaced with a new figure-based question, and the major key will be used instead of minor key. That's the one we looked at earlier. And then the new bonus question, we've already talked about how they will compose the 2 measures in the 6/8 meter. Level 9 will be now on 5 pages instead of 4 to allow more space for questions. It looks so much better than it used to. And I'm excited for the students that it won't be crammed into such a small space. Test questions will have been rearranged, and this is one of the levels that has a sample test on the TMTA website instead of a worksheet, because it was important for students to be able to see that new arrangement of the questions. Level 9 also has the number 9 replaced with the new figure-based question that we've already gone over. The number 12A lead sheet chords, the treble staff lead sheet chord points were reduced from 6 points to 3 points. This keeps it in line with some of the other levels. There's a new number 15 music analysis question that's added in the same style as level 8. I had noticed that we had music analysis on most of the levels, but then we had some levels that it would just disappear. And so now we have music analysis in some way, shape, or form on every single level, so that is now consistent. And then we are changing the tempo for the rhythmic dictation in 6/8 to a dotted quarter equals 40. It was too fast for the students. It was too fast for the person trying to record it most of the time. And I'm hoping this will make it easier for students to comprehend and get hopefully the answers down more efficiently and more accurately. New bonus question will be drawing the 2 chords from figured bass symbols. On level 10, the test questions have been rearranged on page 2, and you can see the sample test on the TMTA website for this one as well. The current number 6 Alberti-based figure-based question has been replaced with a short sonatina excerpt analysis example with 3 questions. We had 2 questions that were requiring the figure-based analysis, and it was too much. And like I said, I also wanted to have an analysis question on every single level. And so that's where we have inserted this one. Number 7, figured-based analysis will be simplified to have 2 less chords. So this is what the question will look like now. Instead of having all quarter notes in measures 1 and measure 3, it will have a half note in both of those measures. And so we have 1 less blank in those measures, and then 1 less point on that question. The current number 9, we should say old number 9, which is the new number 6, lead sheet question will add 2 chords. And the key signatures will no longer be part of the example. This is very important that whenever you are working on the lead sheet questions with your level 10 students, you need to scratch out the key signatures. They are used to not having key signatures from the lower levels, but then their workbooks are going to have a key name and a key signature. Scratch them out so that they get used to drawing in the sharps and flats, just like they have in past years. Students will need to add in the necessary sharps, flats, double flats, whatever, for each chord to be consistent with other levels. Make sure students know how to draw 5/7 chords, which is 4 plus 3 plus 3 half steps. For example, a G7 chord is G, B, D, F. I found recently with my students and working through Just the Facts books that they didn't know how to draw, like when it said G7. And I realized that it wasn't a problem in the past because it had the key signature on there. All they had to do was draw what I call a snowman with a hat when there's a 7 chord, because everything was done for them. For all the chords, they didn't have to draw any sharps or flats. However, now that we are taking the key signatures off, they have to be able to know what they need to have for that key. So if you will teach them, just like for a major chord, they need 4 and 3. For a minor chord, they need 3 and 4. Diminished 3 and 3, right? Augmented, it's going to be 4 and 4. For a 7 chord, the only type of 7 chord that they will have on level 10 is a dominant 7. And for that, it's going to be written like G7 or F7 or A flat 7. It's going to be 4 plus 3 plus 3. They can learn that, and then they'll be able to figure out which sharps or flats they will need to add. Number 12, half cadence will always be 4 to 5, not 2 to 5 or 4 to 5, but always 4 to 5, so that students only have to learn one way to solve this question for level 10, which is contrary motion. And make sure that they know contrary motion and not parallel motion, because they will lose points. And then the new bonus question is, in the given harmonic key, spell the tonic and dominant triads in root position. On level 11, we talked about earlier, the value has increased by 2 points up to 4 points. However, this question is usually very easy for students. So as long as they know those different scale degree names, they should be just fine. On number 6, the part writing was decreased, and this is why we had to increase 3D, where they only fill in the second measure of the part writing example. And number 11, melody writing and melodic minor, students must end the first phrase on the dominant. Students must choose to use rhythmic imitation instead of melodic, students may choose to use rhythmic imitation instead of melodic inversion. On the melody writing for both 11 and 12, it's going to look exactly the same for both of those levels. This was another topic for teachers and students when they were saying that the tests were too hard and people were losing a lot of points. It had to do with the melody writing and melodic minor, that either they didn't understand how to write correctly in melodic minor, or they weren't understanding the way to write a melodic inversion correctly. And so in talking with the level 12 grader, we decided to not require melodic inversion anymore. The student can use melodic inversion if they wish to. And the new instructions are on the level 11 worksheet, which you may find on the TMTA website, but they don't have to do that anymore. The lead sheet chord question will have an additional chord. And please make sure that you check the theory syllabus for all the included chord types allowed for level 11. I recently realized that the list of chords that were being pulled for making this test level were not using all of the chords. So old tests, if you're practicing from that, probably don't have as challenging of chords as you should be using and practicing from. So please check the syllabus for all the different types of 7 chords and any other kinds of chords that may be on there. I think it's basically the different types of 7 chords, like the diminished 7 chords and the half diminished 7 chords like you see here. This is from the worksheet that's on there. So if you practice with the worksheet, you'll have it, but do some additional practice, of course. I think there's also minor 7 chords on there too. Because students need to know how to do them because they will be appearing on the test and they haven't necessarily been on there in the past years. They've been way too easy. I think a mistake was made in creating that part and it wasn't caught, unfortunately, until recently. So please be careful as you train your level 11 students. Level 11, number 19, the cadences will have the addition of a third cadence to where all 3 cadence types will now be used. This will allow them to hear the 3 different types and tell the difference so that they will hear the half, the plagal, and the authentic and know the difference instead of only hearing 2 of the 3. On the melodic dictation in 6/8, this tempo will also be changed to dotted quarter equals 40. And then on the bonus question, as we've spoken about already, they will identify the name of a given secondary dominant chord and the key of which the chord is the dominant. On level 12, number 7, melody, writing, and melodic minor, same thing we talked about earlier. Students must use melodic sequence though now in measures 2 or 3 and in the first phrase of the dominant. Students may choose to use imitation instead of melodic inversion in measures 6 or 7. So it's going to be just like level 11. Like I said, it's on the level 11 worksheet is where you can find the directions because they are the same as level 11 and 12 are the exact same for the melody writing. Number 10, figure-based analysis. Figure-based chord symbols will be added as part of the instructions. This is something else a level 12 grader said that students were messing up the figure-based chord symbols. Now this one, I know for sure, if they have the case wrong on it, like if it is an uppercase or lowercase and it's supposed to be the opposite, it will be counted wrong. I know this for a fact because I have looked it up recently. I'm just not sure on the other one with the letters. That one may not have it counted against, but this one for sure will be counted against. So we have added on the test the chord symbols for this level to where they should not miss it unless they just don't look at the page. But if they miss it, it's their own fault because it's on the test now. And I hope that that will be useful to the students. I know my level 12 student is greatly appreciating and I'm writing it into his theory book and he is using it and liking that. And it makes it to where it's one less thing that they have to memorize or write down on their page to reference and stuff like that. Number 11, part writing. The questions are reduced to 1 open harmony example in harmonic minor with the first chord given. And 11C, this is an instruction that has been a rule, but it wasn't written on the test. So we've added it there to remind the students. Keep common tones in the same voice and avoid parallel fourths, fifths, and octaves. This is something that they should know and is on the level 11 test, but it was not written on the level 12 test. On number 12, secondary dominant triad, a half point was added to make the one example to make it a full point. On number 13B, lead sheet chords, a 4th point value is added to each bass note. Each treble chord and bass note will now be worth a half a point, and this puts it in line with some of the other levels. On musical textures, each example was increased by half a point to make each example worth 1 point. And then the new bonus question we already discussed was write in the lead sheet chord symbols for the given melody in C major. Any questions on any of those new changes?
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so the music analysis questions that are going to be added in for levels 9 and 10, um, do we have like, because I couldn't see this in any of the materials, but is there going to be a list provided of what exactly might possibly be asked on those questions?
It will only be terms that they have had in their glossary, or else like what was on like level 8.
Okay,
But it's nothing new or earth shattering.
okay,
It's only term like what key is it in. I would be working on of course, like melodic sequence, rhythmic imitation, those kinds of questions. Name the chord in a measure, like a measure and beat. Then knowing tempo markings, knowing dynamic markings. I mean, it's really basic things that if you go through your students' pieces and talk about pieces, which is what these questions are trying to get teachers to do. I mean, you should really be talking about analysis on a weekly basis with your students. Then it shouldn't be a problem. But
okay.
it's not anything new, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It's not bringing in any new concepts. It would only be the ones that are in their glossary book for that level or below,
Uh-huh.
just like it has been for anything else.
Okay. I just know that, the syllabus like lists out possible
Right.
questions,
And
and
it
I,
doesn't
I
work for
so I
that.
didn't know if anybody was going to, be
Create one.
wondering about that. But I
We have
also,
not had that question. I will look through and see what our questions are, but I don't know that it's anything harder than like what we've had in level 8.
yeah,
So I
okay,
would look at level 8, which is why I put on there that it was in the style of level 8 for level 9. I will look at level 10 again, since it is a Santina. I mean, I would look at a Santina example so that they're used to looking at a figured bass
hmm,
versus
okay,
not having figured bass to look at. Because that is different when you're analyzing what the name of a chord is.
right. So I guess what you're saying is, on the level 10 analysis question, I know on level 10 you remove the Alberti base analysis question. Is it possible they're going to be kind of asked that in some form on the analysis question?
So there could be, and I'm not looking at the test right now, and I haven't looked at a test in a very long time. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is because I can't remember, nor could I. But, there could be a question that says, what is the chord in measure 4, beat 3?
Hmm.
There could be something like that. So it would be good if they knew what the name of the chord is.
Yeah,
But it's not going to be analyzing every chord of every
right.
beat like it used to do. No.
The sample test asks what is the figure base symbol for the chord in measure 2, and the chord is
Oh,
not.
so there
Yeah,
is one on there. So
yes,
you have an example.
I do, but I'm just, yeah,
So
I'm
there
just
you go.
clarifying for everybody right now who's listening. And the example, the chord is broken apart, so it's not.
Exactly. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. They need to be used to looking at a broken apart
yeah,
chord like you would have in the sonatina. And that's why we talked about in the slideshow that it's in a sonatina form, because that's what you're gonna have is the Alberti bass.
right.
Yes.
So, like, even though they're not being tested on Alberti base exactly, they should still be familiar with it. I guess I'm just trying to bring up that point so we don't just
Exactly.
say like, oh, there's no more Alberti base. It
Right.
might show up.
But the
It,
other
yeah,
one was like 4 measures with like 8 links for
yeah,
Alberti
right,
bass.
yeah,
And it was using figured bass symbols for versus saying the name of a chord like G major.
yeah, right.
Now that one may say like, is it the dominant or the tonic? We
Yeah,
could
that
also ask that.
right.
That's another question that we use a lot on different levels is the chord in measure 6 the tonic or the dominant?
Yeah.
That could be something. So
Okay.
having them know like what key they're in and asking them different chords in the piece, pointing to them and say, okay, is that the tonic or subdominant, depending on what level there is, subdominant and dominant. Knowing those are really good to do. Any other ones before we go on to the other screens? No? Okay. So if you haven't already been to the resources section of the TMTA website, I encourage you to do so. First, you need to log in, otherwise you will not be able to do this. So log into your TMTA website. Don't go to the CMTA one because you won't find it there. And you will click on members first, and then you will scroll down, or not scroll down, but move your cursor down and click on resources. You will come up with the resources library. And here you will find theory practice materials, theory syllabus, theory test aid. That's like what we use at the theory test itself. If you want to print one out for your students to practice with at home or at your studio or whatever, you're welcome to do that. If you're curious as to how graders grade and what their guidelines are, you can look at that here. If you really want to know how points are taken off, you can purchase actually the answer key sets. Those are not provided online for free. So I always suggest that teachers have a set that with the changing tests, you may want to buy like this fall set and see how they are going to be graded since the tests are changing. But I think it's great to know how the tests are graded, how different deductions are taken and stuff like that, if you have not already done so. And then once you are in there, you'll click on download, and then that takes you to this screen. And here is where you will find the 23-24 theory changes and sample tests. If you're wanting to purchase old tests, you would do that with this top link, and it will hopefully always be updated with the most recent tests. So right now it's last year's test. After we have completed the fall's testing, it would change to spring 2023 and fall 2023 practice tests. And then they keep 6 sets of tests up online for you to use. I have not tried this since the new website came up. The ear training pages on the old website used to be to where the students could access. I'm not sure that that's possible. I don't know. Have you tried it, Danielle?
I haven't tried to give anyone this link. I usually just put them in Google Drive and
I've done that
yeah.
as well. When for ones that I had that weren't on the website, I put it in a Google Drive folder for them to practice at home. And that's a great suggestion when you don't have 4 hours of lesson time a week with a student, which is I feel like what I really need to have with each one of my students. You can put in Google Drive and they can practice at home. But on the old website, it went to a folder that they could access without having logged in. I don't know if that's the case with this or not, but it may be possible for the ear training. Please do not be giving them just access to all of the practice tests and stuff like that. That's probably not the best choice. And then there's also some worksheets on here. These are our old worksheets. So some of them are outdated, but some are still useful on some of it. Like the other level 12 ones, I would look at them because they still have some great useful information. The level 11, I believe, has been totally redone, replaced. So we really don't need that on here. I need to have Christiana go through and wipe some of these out. And level 8, I'm not sure if there's much useful, but definitely 1 through 7 you might look at because you might find some helpful things on there if you need anything extra and beyond what you have for practice tests. But 12 has some wonderful things that can help teach some of the more challenging concepts for the level 12 tests. And so I would look at that because the level 12 worksheet that I created to help, it only is teaching the newest stuff. The level 11 worksheet has some of the older concepts that I still felt like people needed help on, plus the new one. So we just added on to what was on here and revised it to make it current. This is my team of awesome people. I'm very, very grateful for who helped me in this past year. And so that's my special thank you to them, and to appreciate all the work that officers, theory chairs and teachers and students do every single year, and that includes all of y'all. So I appreciate each and every one of you.